Hi, Trevor here, reflecting on life through music. Welcome and thank you for stopping by. It is fantastic that you're here. Well, I trust you enjoyed my last video, I suppose mini-series I did on the Bee Gees, the distinctive brilliance of the Bee Gees. And the last video I particularly looked at Stayin Alive from that movie Saturday Night Fever. And there we talked about the fact that sometimes the world needs to grab our attention, and that could be through some hardships that come. So the lesson always is what we do with those hardships when they come by, and the choices sometimes we need to make. So I trust you found that an encouragement. Well, we move from the Bee Gees to pop princess Belinda Carlisle today. Now, Belinda is probably well known as being one of the foundation members of the band the Go Gos, and they were formed in 1978. And the great thing about the Go Gos was, first of all, they were a girl band, and secondly, they played their own instruments, and thirdly, they were the first girl band to play their own instruments to have an album to go to #1. So certainly from 1981 to 1984, they released 3 albums. In 1985, I think fame was getting a bit tricky, so they disbanded. And at that point, Belinda Carlisle decided to go solo and have a solo career. And then certainly from 1986 to 1996, she released 6 albums. And this was the golden period for Belinda Carlisle. She became quite well known worldwide and achieved considerable, substantial success in her own right, with songs such as Heaven is a Place on Earth and Mad About You and Leave a Light On For Me. Hit after hit after hit after hit. And of course she also had the appeal that made her one of the most successful female artists of that era. In 2001, the Go Gos decided to reform, and they released 1 album after that reformation. But Belinda Carlisle also released 2 other solo albums, one in 2007 and one in 2017. So both the Go Gos and Belinda have been in the industry for a long time, and I suppose they've become have legendary status in the industry. In 1986, she married Morgan Mason. Now, Morgan Mason is the son of James Mason, the actor, and in his own right, he was actually a political activist, and also a bit of a film producer. So he was a bit of an all-rounder, and I think his skills and personality complemented Belinda very much. And so they married in 1986. Now at this point, Belinda was 28 years old. She had been in the music industry at this point for about 8 years or so. In her early 20s, she started in the music industry. And I think often is the case with people in this industry, alcohol and drugs and a whole sorts of bits and pieces start to take over. But in amongst all of that, there is quite a beautiful and amazing story. Oh, before I get on to that, the Go Gos, by the way, did receive a Hollywood star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2011. So that goes along with their legendary status they actually have. But back to this, the cocaine and drug use for Belinda Carlisle. So, no, the industry probably does not help this situation at all. And often when you're on stage and you've got the lights and the sound and everything else, when you're in the room on your own, you need something to keep you going, something to make up for sometimes what is the emptiness from going massive crowds to nothing. And so Belinda Carlisle well and truly got embroiled in all of that. And and that's an addiction that hung around her for around 30 years. And then she cites Buddhism and meditation as a way that she was actually able to get out of that particular thing. But there is another beautiful story in here that I wanted to share today, and I'm supposed to bring out a couple of points from. So as I said, she married Morgan Mason in 1986. And you'd think with all of the notoriety and popularity and fame and the travelling and the touring and all the rest of the stuff that goes along with being one of the biggest artists of your day, that, marriages just wouldn't last. Well, this is not the case here, because certainly the web talks about the fact that they are still together, and in fact in 2017 they moved to Bangkok, I think maybe to escape the popularity and just to have a bit of a life, and they actually have a son between them, which is pretty cool. But you think about this life, and you think about what it is that keeps a relationship like this one together when there seems to be everything going against it. And this thing called love. Now, love isn't only this nice sort of fluffy thing that love is known for. We have the beautiful love songs about, it's so great to be with you and all that sort of stuff. But there's a lot more to love than that. Love also is about sticking with someone during the hard times. Because love hopes, and love never gives up, and love always hopes for the best. And so I suppose in amongst the cocaine addiction, probably the violent tempers, the stupors, the touring and everything else, there was a hope that Belinda Carlisle would come out the other side. And certainly after 30 years, that's exactly what happened. But through it all, through 1986, 1986 to 1996 was when Belinda Carlisle was absolutely massive, and so we're talking constantly being away and all the rest of it. The relationship was a constant in her life that did not budge. And it's a beautiful story of how love can transcend and love can hold on to what can sometimes be not an easy situation. No, we almost look at the person who might be struggling and we see someone different. We see someone who is beautiful, someone who is wonderful, and someone who still makes our lives complete. Love has an incredible strength to it when it needs to. And I think from 1986 up till now, the fact that these two guys are together is a real testament to how incredible their love is that they have for each other. And it must be tricky to know sometimes when love perhaps has run its course and there's probably not much more hope and it's just a bit hard and a bit tricky, or you hang on. I suppose it depends on how strong the love is. Because love overtakes us, love overwhelms us, and love pushes us into places which we didn't think we were capable of. This is the power of love. And certainly for Morgan Mason and Belinda Carlisle, this has very much been the case for them. And this is a beautiful, everlasting love story in amongst adversity and everything else, distance and the whole thing. So it's an incredible story. And I think, if you're in the situation right now with this thing of love needing to be really, really hard, well, I suppose the thing is, well, if you're wanting to stay in that relationship, well, you leave the door ajar. You leave it ajar. You don't close it completely, but you leave it ajar and you just keep loving the person. And who knows what will happen down the track. So I'm just wondering though, no, Belinda Carlisle was as huge as she was, and I'm thinking, how, particularly when you're away from your loved one, Morgan, for as often as she was, what do you actually do to keep that love alive? through the distance. Well, I think there's a little bit of a secret, perhaps, with a couple of her songs that she put out. Because what you can do is you make sure you sing songs every night that remind you of your guy or remind you of your girl. And so when you sing them in front of 30, 40,000 people, you're transformed just ever so briefly to be at that person's side. And I suppose there's some songs today that I think just bring this out really, really well. And I'll get on to them in a minute. But yeah, the first song, I suppose, is Mad About You. This came off the 1986 album Belinda, which was her first solo album. And this is the official clip. And in this particular clip, you see Morgan is actually in this clip. He's the guy in this clip. And you just see the fun and the laughter and the frivolity and all the rest of it that goes along with being in a brand new relationship as it was at that point. And I think there's something, mad about you, obviously madly in love with you is what she's singing about here. And so every time she sings that song, she's swept back to those initial moments with Morgan. And then another clip I have is off the 1989 album Runaway Horses, and this song is Leave the Light On For Me. Now this song talks about when the world takes me away touring, and then when the world takes me away to all sorts of places, darling, please leave the light on for me because I will be coming back for you. You can be absolutely sure on that. And so there's something quite beautiful about the longing of the lyrics in this song, and the fact that she thinks of him every single day, even though there might be distance apart from them. This particular clip is live in 1990 from the Runaway tour, and you can just see here how many people she is performing to. There wasn't anything bigger than Belinda Carlisle for a while, and you can see why this fame required her to be away as much as she did. But in this song, which she would have sung every night, there is a promise that she's going to get back to Morgan as quickly as she can. That's a promise that she intends to keep. And so we're not swept up completely by fame. We also understand what's important and what gives you stability. Because if it wasn't for Morgan, probably Belinda would not have had the basis for which to be as successful as she has been. So Leave the Light On For Me is a beautiful reminder to Belinda that yes, I am coming back to you and I'll give you all the love that you need. If you wanted to look up the official clip on that one, feel free to do that on one as well, because that sort of captures the story just a little bit more as well. But I thought I would do a live particular clip of that one. And the third song, and we can't really look at Belinda Carlisle without looking at the Go Gos, and we can't look at the Go Gos without looking at their signature tune, and that is Our Lips Are Sealed, which came off the 1981 album Beauty and the Beat. This particular performance is a live performance of theirs from 2001, so this is around the reformation of the Go Gos, and so Belinda's had a bit of a successful career, but she, in a beautiful way, has come back to be with the girls who made it all start for her. So it's nice to see these sort of things go on. So I believe just with the combination of the remembering Morgan in her concerts and also coming back to the girls where it all started, there's something quite beautiful and compelling about what makes Belinda Carlisle. She is thoughtful and she is considerate and she's always thinking big picture. And that's a really, really nice thing to be able to do. And of course, how nice for them to get the Hollywood Walk of Fame star in 2011. It just kind of rounds off this awesome career that these guys have had. So that's it for today. If you do like this video, please give it the thumbs up, and I'd love you to subscribe if you have come back for another one. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that very much indeed. It's a fantastic to have you join me like this. Well, next time we're going to go on to the Bellamy brothers. And so until then, I'll catch you around.